Hello, everybody, and welcome to I want to say seventh panel because it's 7 o'clock here, but I know that's wrong. We're probably like the fourth panel today. I say we. Hi, it's just me. I'm Haley. You're watching this on my channel, or at least I hope you are, because that joke will never get old. And today I'm going to be presenting, I guess, or showing you all a lot about outlining and like plotting for your fantasy novel, and it's going to be really, really fun. Let me know who's here today. We might even do some interactive things if people would like. I know well, not everybody. A lot of people are prepping for Preptober, during Preptober for NaNoWriMo next month, and I would love to help out with outlining, with prepping, with like lots and lots of questions to ask that you might have or want to consider with or for your novel. So let me know. Let me know if you have any questions. Just pop them in the chat. Um, if I sound out of breath, it's because I am. I ran up to my room after putting away the dishes because I realized, yikes, it's 7 o'clock. So there you go. But yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen with everybody. Also, I hope everyone likes my cape. I dug it out especially for this. I also have a sword. This feels very, very nerdy, like just being alone in my room doing this. So everybody, please tell me what you think in the chat so that I'm not alone. I am your queen for today. I have a sword. I'm your warrior queen, I guess. This panel is part of the Virtual Writing Renaissance Faire, which is super, super awesome. It's happening today and tomorrow. A huge thank you to all my lovely panelists and sprint hosts who went on today. It's been so much fun seeing everybody and listening to all the panels. It's been really, really great. And I can't imagine that I couldn't have imagined last week that it would be so good. Yeah, so let me know. But you know what? Actually, I'm going to start things off with a small sprint. So we are going to do a little sprint because why not? Also because I probably need to get some water before I begin. So yeah, let's do a quick 10-minute sprint. Everybody bring up their outlining projects. Everybody, if you are outlining, I mean, please bring up your outlining projects. Please jot down any questions you might have about outlining, about plotting for fantasy novels, and let's go. Woo! All right, and we are done with that sprint. Let me know how everybody did in the comments. How is your outlining going? If you're outlining for NaNoWriMo, whatever you're doing this Preptober, let me know how it's going. Let me know how it's going. But with that being said, I think that I will get into the presentation right now. Trying to make it as big as I can for people to see. Let me know if people can see it still. Yes, okay, it looks like that worked. Woohoo! Hopefully this is a lot bigger. I will leave questions until after I'm done, but please ask questions throughout. And then I'll also follow up on the Ren Fair and what we're gonna do in the closing ceremony tonight. Woohoo, everybody, get excited. Yeah. So, as I said before, my presentation is about plotting for your fantasy novel. So, we all know the basics of a good plot. Their character, action, setting, status quo, inciting incident, rising action, climax, denouement. If you all were my playwriting class that I teach, I would be asking everybody else to tell me what the basics of a good plot are, but this is not that class, so I have to say it all by myself. But what about specifically for fantasy novels? Well, that's something that we are going to cover today. I think the biggest part of outlining for your fantasy novel and knowing the beats, knowing what to put, is the call to adventure. And honestly, I've struggled with this. Some things when I'm writing, I just want things to look a certain way, and then I write it, or I mean, to be a certain way. And then when people ask me to go back and are like, wait, but when's your call to adventure? When's your inciting incident? I'm like, I don't know. But it's basically the point where your main character is out of your comfort zone. The first time they take the first step out of their comfort zone into the larger world or into the path or onto the path that they use to achieve their destiny, whatever that destiny may look like in your novel. I have here written Hero's Journey or Not. Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. That is a classic, I want to say Hero's Journey, classic outline for a fantasy plot, for a heroic plot that you can use. But here I posit, do you have to? Do you have to? Yes, we all pretty much want the same elements, the same plot elements in our novels, same-ish characters. And what I mean by that is that main characters always have to fill certain tropes. Sometimes they always have to heed the call to adventure. It's not much of a novel if Luke Skywalker just stays home and is like, well, guess I'm gonna man the farm by myself now. I don't really even know why I used Luke Skywalker. I've only seen one Star Wars. That's it. My question here to you is, what forces your character out of their comfort zone? What do they want so badly that they have to leave their status quo to achieve it? You can drop some answers in the comments. I'd love to see what your main characters are up to. For me, for my NaNoWriMo project, it's the main character losing her memory and having to find it again. Trying to get her memory back. I'd say that's a really, really big want that forces her out of her comfort zone. Another thing to consider when you're outlining. What type of fantasy are you writing? Can be steampunk, hope punk, cyberpunk, all the punks. Sci-fi. I'm lumping sci-fi in here for a very good reason. Sci-fi, urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, historical fantasy. I could just go on and on and on and on and on, naming all the fantasies, but I won't because I have like an hour and a half. So, yes, I actually have till 8 o'clock, I believe, because the closing panel, which I'm hosting, is at 8:30. We might run over. We'll go to 8:15. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But the type of fantasy that you are writing pretty much determines your story, right? It determines what you want to write about, it determines what you feel most strongly about, and it determines which genre it will make your story the best it can be. That was confusing. Consider which type of fantasy makes the most impact. Like I say here, it can be just what genre speaks to you the most, what genre will make the story the best it can be, but don't just choose a fantasy type just because I'm like, hey, this is really, really cool. Start with, hey, this is really, really cool and I want to write about it. But then from there, go figure out your plot, figure out your characters. How do they fit into this larger theme? How do they fit into this larger world? The answers may surprise you because I started off last year when I wrote my Camp NaNoWriMo project that I wanted to write steampunk meets elves, which I did. And then it's taken about like 3 or 4 or 5, I forget which draft I'm on now, to figure out why I chose those two. And the impact of it is actually really, really profound, and it has a really big impact on the story itself and why I'm telling it. So, my main point here is that inspiration can definitely come from anywhere. Your choice of the type of fantasy that you're writing can come from anywhere. But as long as you follow through, as long as you follow that through when you're writing and not just choose it because, hey, let's do this, let's throw some stuff at the wall. That's great, but throw some stuff at the wall and let it stick. Stick it to the wall. Stick it to the wall, everybody. If that's something that you come away with, stick your outline to the wall. Stick your type of fantasy to the wall of your project. Yes. Okay. Lastly, which elements are you considering in this fantasy of yours, in this fantasy world? Are you thinking about a soft magic system or a hard magic system? Are you thinking about incorporating technology? I don't necessarily mean computers. I mean like bowls, hunting spears. That kind of technology. What kind of technology does your world have? Why? How did it develop? I don't want to go too much into the magic systems because we will have an awesome panel tomorrow done by Charlie. So good luck at that. All right. Like I said, ask your questions in the chat. Don't worry. If anything's confusing, I will happily explain it. Now, research. Do you think you can completely make up everything for your fantasy world? The answer is no. No, you cannot. Everything that people write, every single plot, every single world has basis in our world because we are writing it, right? We are writing it from our times, our minds, our world as it is now. Yes, everything. What are you basing your world / characters off of? Why? Is it a heavy influence? Is it a small influence? How does that affect your story? You can't write anything unless you do some research into things you are basing off of, things you are not stealing from, but using. Do your research. I'm trying to think of examples for mine. So, for my NaNoWriMo project that's coming up, half of it I'm basing in London. Now, London is a very easy choice for me because I was lucky enough to study abroad in London junior year of college. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go study abroad. Not at all. Not at all. Actually, please do not. The coronavirus is still happening. There's a pandemic, people. Do not travel, please. But you don't necessarily have to study abroad for any of this. You don't necessarily have to go to, I don't know, outside your house because you know why? We have the internet. We can look up anything we want, pretty much. You want to know about a culture's food? You want to know about food in um, Nigeria? Look it up. You want to know about food or weapons that like old um that the Mayans used? Look it up. We literally have a square box of a wealth of information right here. Use it. Don't just write off your assumptions or stereotypes. Do your research. I say that because um it's true. It's true. Everybody put in the work, put in the research, even for your fantasy novels. Yes. Yes. Do you think that I don't know, I'm trying to come up with a modern example here besides myself. But if anybody has any examples, drop them in the chat, please. Drop them in the chat. And then I also have do your research especially for bad slash harmful tropes and including marginalized communities. If you are not part of a marginalized community, please include them in your work. Please include like so many marginalized communities in your work. But there's a difference between including people and being respectful for different communities, different cultures, and telling other people's stories that you haven't lived in, that you haven't experienced in some capacity. Do your research, everybody. Do your research. This could honestly come at any point in your outline. I've been doing some research that's, I mean, I'm still kind of outlining. Still, I'm have like 2 chapters done ready for NaNoWriMo. But my research came pretty early on, but that's specifically because I'm prepping and I'm probably going to make a video about the research that I'm doing for my project soon. But your research can come at any point in your project. You know, give yourself permission when you're writing in the middle of a scene to be like, "Hey, I don't know this. I'm gonna look it up." Give yourself that permission. It's okay to look things up. It's okay to not know things. It's okay not to know everything there is to know about outlining or research. After you have done your research, guess what? There's more questions that you can ask yourself. What tropes do you want to play with? What tropes that you know from reading do you want to play with? Do you want to use them differently? Do you want to subvert them? How can you challenge people's perceptions in your world? Your fantasy world typically isn't going to be the same as our world, even if it's an urban or contemporary fantasy, because guess what? That's different from our world right now. Unfortunately, we are not living in a fantasy with elves and orcs and stuff. But the good thing is that that is completely an example of subverting tropes, an example of using modern technology in different ways. Be creative, have fun, and always give yourself permission to outline and research, to research while you outline, to research after you outline, to research before you outline, etc., etc., etc. So, what about your world can you make familiar to the reader? This can be as small as, oh, my main character is a girl and she's queer and she's figuring out her identity. Lots of people can identify that. I can identify with that. What is your main character going through? What are the people in your world going through that has resonance with your audience, that has resonance with your readers, that can resonate with your readers? There we go. That's the correct term. Whew. My mouth is very, very dry, but I want to get through this PowerPoint. Please leave your questions in the comments. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna grab some water. I really should have been more prepared before this, but hey, um, things happen. I don't know. I don't know. Leave your questions in the chat, please. I'm gonna grab some water. Do you have any questions or things that aren't clear that I've been talking about? Opinions? Let me have them. BRB. Thanks, guys. Woo. All right, everybody. I am back. Let me see how everybody's been doing in the chat. Also, hello to everybody who I didn't say hello to. Let's actually run through that really quick. Hi, Devin. Hi, Megan. Hi, Vixens of Fiction. Megan loves my cape and sword. Thank you, Megan. Heather, I don't know if you're here still, but hi. Thank you for hitting the like button. Then I see there was a whole discussion about paper versus Scrivener. Yes, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Megan. I think your presentation has been very clear. I don't really have any questions since I'm not writing a fantasy novel, just looking for some outlining tips. That is okay. I am here for you, Megan. As many of you know, I've been reading 2K to 10K by Rachel Aaron these past few weeks. I have a video series up on it, and it's been really, really helpful to outline for NaNoWriMo. If everybody wants, I can definitely go over some of the more of the tips that I learned from that book. It's been really, really helpful. Vixens of Fiction asks, how long can the story wait for the inciting incident and call to action? Typically, it has to be in the first 10 to 20%, I'd say. So the first 10 to 20% of your book. It should be early on so that the real meat of the book, what you've promised them, what you've promised the readers, is the fun and games portion, right? Where your hero, where your main character actually does the things that need to be done to defeat the bad guy, to defeat the villain, whoever it is, to win the kingdom back, etc. Hopefully that makes sense. And speaking of a good main character, I don't mean good as in good versus evil. I just mean, how are you going to make a character? People who outline their characters, drop your tips in the chat, because I am all about crowdsourcing tips as well. My My main thing is that you don't have to fill out every single personality test in the world to figure out your main character. You can just ask them 3 questions. And honestly, these questions are really, really good for any of your characters. All your characters should have a want, by the way. All your characters should have a want and a need and an obstacle in their way. But for your main character specifically, answer these 3 things. What do they want? Wait, where's my finger? Okay, what do they want? How will they try getting what they want? How will their method of getting what they want change? Oh, there we go. 3 questions. 3 questions. Those are all you need to know about your characters. We're done. Goodbye. I'm kidding. We're not done. Please don't leave. um, those are really the only 3 questions that I go by. I also really like just a basic physical description. In Rachel Aaron's book, she just has the name, age, physical description, motivation, your character's relation to the story, aka are they like the hero, main character, love interest, etc., 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 their likes and hates, and more than anything, they want. What do they want? That, if you don't answer any other question at all about any of your characters, that is the question that you should answer for all of your characters, even the villains, even the antagonists, all of them. What do they want? Easy. Simple. But how does that want change over time? Will that want change over time? What will your hero do when presented with new information throughout the story? It's up to you to figure that out. Remember, you have all the power here. You are the writer. You are in control. You have the power. Now, basics of a good villain. Well, folks, I was just watching an episode of Supergirl, and Lex Luthor came back. And if that's not a good villain, I don't know who is. He's immortal, I think, but that doesn't matter, because the questions that you should answer about your villain are pretty much the same as the questions that you should answer about your main character, about your hero. What do they want? How will your villain get in the way of your main character? Do they mean to get in the way of your main character? Why? Why? It's all coming back to why. Is your villain, or how can your villain be, a foil to your main character in some way? That can manifest as powers, abilities, weapons, the complete opposite of what the hero stands for in this time and every time else. Even in Lord of the Rings, Sauron, he is a foil to Frodo because Sauron represents everything that Frodo does not want to happen to the world, to the Shire, etc. Sauron literally is like the darkness, the manifestation of the darkness. And he's a foil to Frodo because Frodo represents all that's good and pure and nice in the world, etc. What is your villain's goal? And then again, I say likes, dislikes, motivation, their relation to your story. How can you weave in your villain throughout your story? Your villain can't just show up whenever the plot needs them to. You need to know what more or less what your villain is doing throughout the book, so that your hero can stand in direct opposition to your villain. Pretty much have a good idea of your villain's movements, track them, use a secret surveillance cam on your villain, and track them throughout your story so that you have an exact map of where they're going, why they're going there, and what they want. What are they trying to achieve? How are they going to get it? What are they willing to do to get what they want? That shouldn't always be worse than what your hero will be willing to do to get what they want. That was a lot of syllables. um, it's up to you. It's up to you. Just keep in mind that your villain should be a foil to your main character, should stand in opposition in some way, some way. It can represent everything that your main character is fighting against, fighting for, etc. A good villain is always 10 steps ahead. A good antagonist is always 10 steps ahead of your hero, but you, the writer, are always 10 steps ahead of your villain. Think ahead to what they want. Think ahead to the end game. Think ahead. Was I just saying think again? Think ahead to the end game. Think ahead to what your villain wants. How will they get it? Etc. 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 Now, switching gears a little bit. How do names matter in your world building? Do all names mean certain things? How? Why? What is the significance of your characters with historical names? Think of our own cultures and names here. Now, I don't mean historical as in like, oh, 1800s, 1900s, 1700s. I mean like old names. Who did their names belong to, if any people, if any legends? In my current manuscript that I've been writing, one of my main characters' names is actually a translation of an elvish name that he didn't even know about, and yeah, it sets up some pretty important plot things. But do all names have to do that? No. In contrast, my main character has a very, very normal name. She's not special at all. Sorry, main character. But even that's important. How will names serve your story? Do you want your names to serve your story? Every one of you in the chat was named because your name meant something, because your name means something. So just consider that for your characters too. What matters to you, the author, and why? And then, this is just my opinion here, but I always go by putting as much into your characters as necessary for the story that you want to tell, for the story that actually gets put on the page and read by readers. I don't think you need a story Bible. I don't think you need a story Bible at all to write a good fantasy novel, to outline a good fantasy novel. I think you just need to know what will serve your story in the moment, what is directly important to your story, what will the readers find out. You don't want to make thousands and thousands of pages of a language, say, or of an ancient history of some kingdom, and then not even use half of that, right? In my opinion, I think that time could be much better used when actually writing and figuring out your characters and figuring out your plot. So, here are some common misconceptions / pitfalls. Don't assume you need entire chapters full of setting exposition. Fill your setting in as you go. Write it as your characters would see it. Write it as you would want to see it. Write as though you're driving a car and you're looking out the window as the scenery is passing you by. What do you see? You're not seeing it all at once, right? Nobody here wakes up and describes their exact bedroom or outside their door window. In front of me is a window. I hope you all know that. I just pointed to my window and I called it a door. Whew, okay. Be wary of long character conversations. They can work, but be wary of, wait, what was I going to say? Be wary of long character conversations. They can drag down your pacing. Now, in NaNoWriMo, you may be tempted to write as much as possible, and that could definitely be translated into your characters' discussions about their world, about their time, about important plot points. But you can fill in that word count just as well with your characters' reactions, with your characters' thoughts, with your characters' opinions, with your characters' actions, not necessarily their words. Now, I see Natalie says, fill your setting in as you go. A little louder for those of us in the back. Fill your setting in as you go! To that end, your secondary characters are not stone statues. They have personalities. Remember those questions that we were asking earlier about all the characters? That I said we should ask for all the characters? Yes, do that. Ask what your secondary characters want. Then they won't be cardboard. Then they won't be statues. Ask what everybody wants in your story, or else, I don't know. I don't want to give a threat here, but hey, that's it. That's it. Play with structure. Play with tropes. Not every hero has to be a sword-wielding man. Sorry for the men, but like, play with tropes. Play with common perceptions of heroes. Have fun. Make it your own. Don't adhere to story guides and like the correct way to write a fantasy novel just because it's been done before. Sure, there are a lot of basic elements that you want to include. Obviously, call to adventure, characters, inciting incident, climax, rising action, falling action, denouement. But you can play with everything inside of those. Trust me, it's possible. Write the story that you want and don't listen to anybody else, but listen to my presentation because it's about outlining. Yay. Oh, and then here actually I have on this slide, is a series Bible truly worth it? No. For me. It depends on the project and the author. Will it be useful to the story that you want to tell? How? How? Those are just the 3 questions that you need to ask before making a series Bible. Because if you want to spend all that time making a series Bible, what percentage of that time will be spent writing your book? I ask you. I promise you I don't have anything against series Bibles. I know this must sound like it. I know this really must sound like I hate series Bibles. I don't. Maybe. Questions, comments, suggestions. Please tell me. Or ask me. Also, while you're all typing your questions in the chat, or comments or suggestions, I don't know, if you are following along with the Virtual Writing Renaissance Faire today, the playlist is linked in the description below. It is in the description below. Please follow along. We will be up bright and early tomorrow at 8:30 EST, 8:30 a.m. EST, yes, for the second opening ceremony where we will be going over the clues that we figured out today. If you're following along with the storyline, let me just remind you that I am queen of the Virtual Writing Renaissance Faire. Someone has stolen my treasure. All the hosts of the panels and sprints are culprits, and all of them have seen different things about the treasure. All of them know different things. You can go back and watch all the panels and sprints today to get your clues about who stole the treasure. But to make it easier for you, I have posted them all on Instagram for your perusal at Virtual Writing Ren Faire. That's at Virtual Writing Ren Faire. Please follow on Instagram. Please follow and subscribe to everybody in this playlist. They are all awesome. They are all amazing for doing this with me and agreeing while I you know, threatened them with a sword. Ha 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 ha. I'm kidding. I didn't actually. That you know of. But, you know. Haha, you don't. But seriously, subscribe to everybody. Subscribe to me, please, if you haven't already. I just hit 100 subscribers last week, and a celebration is going to be happening next week, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe during NaNoWriMo. I'm not sure. The clues are posted on Instagram. Someone has stolen my treasure. We have the closing ceremony after this at 8:30, where I will go over all the clues. I will talk about all the panels today, what everybody thought about them. Then we have a very, very, very special midnight panel sprint. It's a sprint. Tonight, led by Sako Toomey on Sako's channel. It's gonna be great. And that sprint will actually have a special secret clue, which you can only pick up at that sprint. Technically, you can only pick up all the clues at all the panels and sprints, but that one is special because it's a very, very important clue, and nobody will ever guess. But yes, so tomorrow we will have more and more panels and sprints. It's going to be so much fun. Lots and lots of clues. And tomorrow's closing ceremony will announce who stole the treasure, who will be the ruler of the next Renaissance Fair, and you can win accolades if you guessed it right in the chat. Exactly. I don't know. I just agreed with myself, I guess. Amber says, for me, it just keeps me from repeating things in each book, but that's just me. Yeah, a series Bible. I do a series Bible if my novel is going to be a series. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Because facts need to be kept straight, but for a regular novel, I think a general backstory and outline works for me. That's awesome. That's awesome. Actually, I say I don't have a series Bible, but I feel like my Scrivener document is my series Bible to a certain extent, because I have notes upon notes upon notes upon notes in my Scrivener doc, and it's really, really helpful. I know a lot of people with like very, very similar organization systems. I know I saw the discussion about Scrivener for outlining in the chat. For me, it's only been worth it because I won NaNoWriMo. Without winning NaNoWriMo, without getting that 50% off, I'm going to be real to everybody, I wouldn't have gotten it because it's too expensive for me. But I am like 20-something, so it depends on you. But because I got it for NaNoWriMo, and because it was so cheap, it has been amazing with outlining, with planning, with taking notes, with organizing my manuscripts, with like all my chapters. I have put more effort into learning Scrivener than I have to learn Word. I don't know how you organize anything in Word. I don't know how you do like chapters in Word. How do you do chapters? Somebody teach me. That could be another panel for another day. Teach Haley Haggerty how to format her manuscript in Word. But for now, Scrivener has been really, really amazing for me. It just does it all for me, honestly. It just compiles it. I can have all these different sections for all my outlining notes. I can arrange them however I want. They'll all be in the same file. They'll all be in the same project. I won't have to open multiple and multiple and multiple Word documents all of the time, which I still do for my plays because I like to make life difficult for myself, you know? But honestly, I really, really recommend Scrivener. Only if you win NaNoWriMo, though. Because without that, I wouldn't have gotten it, but because I did get it, it has changed my life. Scrivener has literally changed the way I outline, the way I plot, the way I format my manuscript, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but it's motivated me to start querying soon because I have everything formatted the way I want it, and it's really, really great. It's super, super great. Yeah, I just want to throw this out here. I'm not being paid by Scrivener to say this. I'm not, I swear. Scrivener does not own my soul. But hey, Scrivener, if you want to do a partnership, if you wanna collaborate on a sponsorship, Scrivener, if you're listening. Sponsorship? I don't know. Partnership? What's it called when, like, a company pays you to promote them on YouTube? Is that just paid promotion? Because I feel like it is. Scrivener, pay me to promote you. Um, but yeah, honestly, it's like all in one for outlining. I can have all my different sections. I would, you know what? Actually, here we go. I'm gonna show you all my outline. No, not my outline, but a really, really quick showcase of my Scrivener and how I plot. So like I have the novel format, manuscript, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and I really, really love how you can just see it all right here. Of course, I only have 3 chapters, but that's because I'm saving most of it for NaNoWriMo. We have a section for notes here. I don't have any notes, but in my other project I do. But you can put all sorts and sorts of notes in here. I have my research, so I have my characters, setting, cut sections, plot stuff, etc., etc. Characters is obviously the most heavy-duty one. Character sketch, basic character sketch, my main characters, antagonists, name ideas, power players, etc., etc., etc. Things for my settings, cut sections, plot stuff, etc., etc., etc. Now, if anybody wanted to know about the 3-act structure, I would totally show them. So here it is. Like I said, I've been reading 2K to 10K by Rachel Aaron. It's been immensely, immensely, immensely helpful. Having all these tools, her giving me all these tools, not personally, I've just been reading her book. But the 3-act structure, like I was talking about before, Act 1, put your characters in a tree. Act 2, light the tree on fire. Act 3, get your characters out of the tree. Now, how you go about doing that is so up to you. Knowing about the story structure does not guarantee you'll get it right every time. It'll just help you figure out when you've got it wrong. There can be infinite nesting dolls of the 3-act structure in book series, chapters, scenes. The core part of the writing triangle is, guess what? Knowledge. Let me highlight that for you. I feel like I'm a motivational speaker or something. I don't know. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah. I don't know. I really, really love Scrivener. I've been really, really loving 2K to 10K by Rachel Aaron. It's been immensely helpful. Highly recommended for outlining. Yeah. Ooh. Hi, Edward. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Amber, if you ever need a tutorial, let me know. Thank you. Oh, Megan says sponsoring. Yes. That's it. If Scrivener is listening, my soul is up for grabs. Me too, Scrivener gods. Me too. Vixen of Fiction says, I can do a lot with pages, chapters, index, images. I just wonder if it's better. I actually have never used Pages, so I don't know. But also, Pages is free, and Scrivener is expensive. But I will leave that up to you, though. I am partial to Scrivener because it's the first program that I've actually used for outlining. Before Scrivener, all my outlining was pretty much done just like in the document, and it was just all in the same place. And I don't like to work like that, it turns out. I I like having things separated. I like separating them out myself. So there you go. There you go. I I really like Scrivener. This turned into a big Scrivener ad. um, but yeah, I really hope everybody enjoyed this panel. I hope that it was informative. I hope that it helped you out in some way. I think I'm gonna end it here because I have to get ready for the closing ceremony and probably drink a lot of water so that I can speak. Um, you guys probably can't hear it, but like my voice, it's hoarse. That was a big swallow that I just did on screen. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. I really, really enjoyed this. Scrivener, are you listening? Yep. Thank you, Vixens of Fiction. That was really, really nice. Yeah, doing this panel was really, really great. Like I said, I'll be giving a rundown of all the Ren Fair stuff that happened today in the closing panel today at 8:30. That's in half an hour. If you're following along with the playlist, it is down below. The playlist is down below. The playlist link is also in the description of this video, so please look there. And today I am Virtual Writing Ren Faire on Instagram, so please give that a follow. Please tag that and me in any posts that you make on Instagram, any stories. Love to see the promotion. Please. Alright, thanks everybody for coming. Really hope you enjoyed it. See you at 8:30. Bye!